times a day or more,
Hey,
you
what's
know,
up,
and the
man?
whatnot. And I was like, what the heck is a whatnot?
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, I was like,
You know,
man,
I have magazines and whatnot in the
Yeah.
bathroom to read, you know.
he would, and you know the whatnot. It's like,
Hey. Yeah, I stopped hanging out with those guys. You know, we still see each other every once in a while, but, you know, everyone's getting married and whatnot.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
Peter,
Where do I look?
Wherever you want.
That
That
you're a
works, too.
multi-talented individual.
Yeah.
Acting, writing, doing stand-up, cartooning. Is there one area that you enjoy more than the others?
It depends on the moment. Sometimes I really want to be alone, but I also like to make money, and drawing and writing are things that you can do and make money and be alone. Stand-up comedy is harder to make money at when you're alone. In fact, the ability for you to make a living is increased exponentially with the introduction of each new set of eyeballs, especially in today's world, where you got people blogging and being influencers, and it seems like if you want to make it nowadays, you've got to be on all the time. And I can't. I'm too old for that. I like being alone for like 23 hours of the day, and then hopping on stage in front of 200 people and making them all laugh, and then going back to my bat cave and just be like, now for the next idea.
Exactly.
And that's where I draw.
How'd you get your start in cartooning?
Haha, great question. My father was a preacher, and I would do anything to not listen to him. I just could not stand sitting on those hard-ass pews for hours listening to some man who was usually very fun, ramble on about something that I didn't know anything about. And my mom would pinch me and say, listen to your father. And I'd say, please, 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 dear woman, give me a pen and an announcement paper. And please let me draw. I will get good at it. So that's what I did. I did that instead of listen, pay attention. I drew pictures all over the marginalia of the announcement piece of paper. I'd be like, oh, why do they have to fill up every space? The offering envelopes, unfold, don't tear down. Oh yeah. It's like, can you hand me an offering envelope? That's for offering to the Lord. Yeah, but I want to draw G.I. Joe fighting.
So, how do you come up with your hilarious and clever gag cartoons?
It's usually not that sexy. It's a turn of a phrase, and I don't like clever humor, but it comes to me. Puns are what you use for humor when you're not allowed to say naughty words or things. You become clever. And somewhere in the middle, there's this part of me that's like clever and naughty. And like cartoons are where I can get away with it. Because, I think humor is one of the few ways that you can actually get out of work. If you're funny enough, whether it's on paper or with a microphone, if you're funny enough, you can be excused from almost anything. Like I figured out when I was a little kid that if I drew pictures of people, they liked that.
Yeah.
Like if I could draw someone and it even looked remotely like the person, they liked that a lot. And so when I come up with, like let's say, okay, so like, all right, so here's how I come up with something funny, all right? My brother's wife will call me and say, hey, I thought of something funny. And she'll tell it to me, and I'll go, yeah, that's pretty funny. And then I'll go draw it, I'll steal it, and I'll draw it, and then fast forward to you asking me how I came up with something. So that's one way. That's one way. Just
Steal it.
Thieving. Thieving it works really well. Picasso said, amateurs borrow, but artists steal.
Okay.
And I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. But so that's one way, and then another way is like if I like, I remember hearing anaphylactic. Like I'm not smart. Like I'm brilliant, but I'm not smart. You know, there's a difference. Like there's a difference between being smart and being wise. Like being smart is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Being wise is knowing enough to not put it in a fruit salad. Like those are two different muscles.
Yeah.
They're both very necessary. One may seem more glamorous. Yeah, everyone would love to be Van Gogh, but Van Gogh would not have been possible without the madness that cut off his ear, or the brother, Theo, who owned a gallery.
Oh,
Like no one hears about that unsexy part of Van Gogh's life. Because you want to think that he just kind of floated and was discovered by fate and all this. He was the process of a whole bunch of forgiveness and grace and letting bygones be bygones, because he's pretty smart. You know, he's a painter. I don't know. He eats paint. Leave him alone. He eats paint. He's a paint eater.
How long have you been doing stand-up?
Oh, I don't want to answer this question, but I've been doing stand-up so long that, like, the first joke I wrote that was worth remembering was the Titanic joke, which I wrote in like '96 when it came out.
All right, so I finally saw Titanic on a VHS tape that only played backwards. Turns out it's actually a very happy story about 1,500 people floating out in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, when out pops this boat from nowhere and sucks them all on board and takes them to a parade. But it does that sadly because Leonardo DiCaprio loses his ticket and becomes a gambler.
That's great.
His hickory clothes part.
So
That's like '96.
wow. That's cool.
And then in '97, I did Chillicothe.
Yeah.
And then by '99, we went to Sundance with it. And then by the end of '99, I was living in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Okay, so what was the last question?
It was about stand-up, but it segues into the next question.
How long have I been doing stand-up?
How long have you been doing?
I've been doing stand-up since about 1996.
Okay.
I got started at the Tulsa Comedy Club
Oh,
with
wow.
Isaac Whitty, John Evans.
What made you try stand-up for the first time?
I lived across the street from the Tulsa Comedy Club, and it had a sign on the marquee that said, open mic, I think it was Tuesdays, open mic Tuesdays. And I was going to ORU at the time, and I used to walk there. And so we lived a mile down the street, and I walked there, and I thought, I should go in there. And I told myself, if that sign's still up next week, I'll go. And then next week, guess what? I told myself, if it's up the next week, I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
And after like 3 of those, I finally went up. It took me a whole pot of coffee to get the nerve to go over there. And I did. I went over there, and I fell in love with it. I immediately fell in love with it, and I started doing it for church groups and youth groups, and then I started doing it in clubs. I started traveling a little bit, doing Arkansas and Missouri, Kansas, Texas, places like I still do today.
Awesome, man. Do you
Isaac
have
Whitty went on to do Late Night with David Letterman and
Letterman,
he did
Conan?
Conan O'Brien. He did Friday Night Blend.
Yeah.
He did Prairie Home Companion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was huge, and we got started together.
I don't like to say I'm losing my hair. That makes it sound like had I been more responsible, this wouldn't have happened. And I was like, where's your hair? I lost it. You know me.
We love you, Isaac, wherever you are.
Do you have a favorite joke of yours?
I like short jokes. I like jokes that are
Little
like,
people?
yeah, I like jokes that can be understood by people that are like 4'2" and stuff like that. No, I like, I've noticed that women can become bitter when you ruin their lives. Because every time I say that and a woman laughs, I feel like it's getting me like one step closer to being like forgiven by all women. I doubt it is.
Well, I don't think all women.
It feels like I'm doing community service.
Yeah,
Like, I love dogs appropriately. That was a comic first. I like it when I can make a joke and also do a cartoon with it and make it work.
yeah.
That's very rare, but like, I think one of my favorite jokes, you know, it's funny when it makes you laugh and only you laugh. Like, that's what's special about humor.
Oh yeah.
Is like, a lot of times we worry about what other people think of our jokes.
Yeah.
But really, like, if it makes you laugh, that's the most that it was ever supposed to do. For you to share it with someone else and make them laugh, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah. Most of your stand-up is one-liners.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say dick jokes. I was gonna be like, no.
So, a joke, you know, that
Politics.
Sets up the
Most
pun-
of my stuff is political.
sets up the punchline and then the punchline, one-liner.
Yes.
So,
I betray the audience's trust with the second line.
exactly.
The first line draws them in. The second line makes you wonder, why am I here?
Do you find that easier or harder than trying to do observational or anecdotal?
Yeah, no, to me, the idea of being clever and coming up with something short and concise is very easy. It's relatable. It feels like cheating. But if it makes people laugh, what do I care?
Hey,
I'm not Nate Bargatze.
no.
I can't do, he does these amazing 15-minute long jokes
Oh,
that
yeah.
have punchlines all throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is heroic. I'm getting to know that. I don't think that you only get good at one thing. 'Cause I would like to, when I'm done, when my days are over, I would like to have tried and succeeded at making multiple kinds of jokes.
That's awesome, man.
Like stories. And I think it's really about, like, look at Chris Rock.
Right.
Chris Rock could tell a knock-knock joke and make you piss yourself if he needed to. If he wanted to, if he had your attention, he knows how to do it. He could also read the phone book and entertain a room full of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And it's partially because of who he is, but a lot of it has to do with self-esteem, confidence, timbre, vocalization. Do you imitate people when you like if I was telling a story and I'm like, oh, you know, my teacher growing up, he was like, Peter, you're not going to be funny when you grow up. Like, that's called, you know, a character.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not a joke, that's not a punchline,
No.
but it's entertaining. And so, like, you learn how to use that along the way. So maybe I'm doing a story, and I'm talking about the milkman, and I'll give him a wash chocolate, because that's how he was. Or, you know, I don't know, I found that, like, sometimes people just really appreciate it whenever you can do like some sort of accent, right? You know, even if it's just for a bit, just for a second, to give just your story a punch up. But like, that's not something that anyone taught me. Like,
Yeah.
you just kind of, when you're desperate enough on stage, and you got to do 45 minutes because that's how much you're being paid for.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter if you have punchlines enough, you have to stay on the horse or you don't get the trophy. You know, so you learn how to be entertaining. And that's how it is just in life.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of fake it till you make it. So I don't know what I'm capable of yet. I know some things that have worked in the past.
Yeah.
And those short ones, they really worked. And if it wasn't for Mitch Hedberg being dead, I wouldn't be doing stand-up. Because it wasn't until he passed away that I thought, like, oh, okay. Now that he's not doing that anymore, I'm going to try doing that.
Yeah.
And that worked for a little bit until it didn't. I mean, I still get compared to him a lot, but it's not enough for me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do stuff he never did. I want to do characters. I want to do prop comedy. I want to do crowd audience work. You know, stuff that he didn't
Yeah.
do. I'm sure if he was alive today, he would have gotten into more stuff. I bet he would have done a P.T. Anderson movie by now. You know, because like a lot of comics, like Robin Williams and Good Will Hunting. I mean, you don't even know what you're capable of.
Mhm.
When he was in San Francisco and he was doing, you know, copious amounts of cocaine, he probably never had any clue he would someday win an Oscar for like a dramatic role.
Oh yeah.
So I don't claim to know what works for me yet. I know that, you know, there's no fault in experimentation with life. Like, that's what we're here for. Find out what you can do and get away with it.
Any advice for somebody wanting to get started in stand-up?
Find out what you can do and get away with it. like for real, like seriously, like there's so many people out there that are way funnier than me. And I know it's not like a competition, but there are people out there who slay me, and they slay rooms full of people. They get a different kind of laugh out of people, and they've been doing it for a sliver of the time I've been doing it. Which you know, I don't. It doesn't bother me. I mean, but it is weird because stand-up comedy is definitely like, it's not a team sport.
No.
You know, a lot of people, they'll take their hats off to you. They'll be like, man, I could never do that. And they'll be like, you know, Willie Nelson or someone who's like huge in their world. They're a quarterback for a, like I had Billy Ray from Billy Ray Barbecue.
Oh yeah.
He's like, man, I could never do that. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. And he's like, I couldn't do what you do. I couldn't get up there and make a fool out of myself. I'm like, is that what you think I did? Yeah, no, a good comedian is a person of the earth, of the people.
Yeah.
Like a good comedian can make a room full of locals
Yeah.
laugh so hard at themselves. Like, you can go into a room and you can just rib everyone.
Mhm.
And it's a miraculous. I think it's closer to doing magic. Like, I'll put this spell together. It's got these words in this order, and when it's done, you laugh.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I know the magic works. And then, like, you do it up close to people. Like, I have this joke where I say,
I've been doing comedies for so long. I got a joke in any letter. You throw out any letter and I have a joke. And
J.
I heard H.
and then I do a joke that I prepared. and people just, it's a magic trick. Because they were going one way mentally with it, and you jerked them the other way, and now they're going,
So, I understand you moved out to LA for a while when you were younger. How long were you there?
10 years.
10 years. Wow.
From 99 to 09.
Wow. What was it like compared to Tulsa?
It was amazing, because Tulsa had nothing, and Los Angeles had everything. I went out there and I did extra work. I got, I got to work with Steven Spielberg. I got touched by Steven Spielberg in a good way. Like, he put his hand on my shoulder, and I looked at his hand, and I was like, oh my God, Steven Spielberg's touching me right now.
In a good way.
And then, yeah, in a good way. And then he pushed me out of frame very slowly. And I was like, oh no, that's not good. You know, your time in LA is limited whenever Steven Spielberg literally pushes you out of frame.
Terrible.
But then my friend called me when this was on the set of Catch Me If You Can. And he was like, hey, I just saw you in Catch Me If You Can. I was like, I don't think so. Steven Spielberg pushed me out of frame. He's like, no, it was a photograph. And I was like, what? It's just he and I on screen for like 2 seconds.
That's awesome,
It's
man.
when he's cutting his picture out of the book.
Okay.
'Cause I totally forgot that they had us line up and they took all of our photos that day.
All right.
So even though my scene was cut, I still got like FaceTime with Leo. And then later on, I was at Coffee House on Cherry Street when he was shooting Flowers of the Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting out there drawing on the patio, and Leonardo DiCaprio walks up with his girlfriend and their dogs, and he sits down like across the doorway from me. It's just he and I on the patio. So very slowly, I thought, well, I'm going to ask him if he remembers me. Hey, do you remember me from that photograph in the movie? I co-starred with you.
What made you get into film?
Back to the Future.
Steven Spielberg presents Back to the Future, a Robert Zemeckis film.
I saw Back to the Future, and I remember leaving the theater and saying to my parents, "What's that called?" And they were like, "Time travel?" And I was like, no, what Michael J. Fox did. Like, acting? I said, yeah, I want to do that. I want to be in acting. And they're like, okay, it's called being an actor, but yeah, you could try that. And luckily for me, they were getting divorced, so, when you're getting a divorce, your kid can do anything they want, Sure, you can do that. Of course you can. You can be anything you want. You're normal.
Be happy.
Yeah. Anything that makes you happy.
What kind of roles have you done in film?
Also, I did a passion play once when I was an itty bitty kid, and I got to sit on stage with a goat and like sing this like Les Mis type song, very very bolstering, and I just remember thinking that felt amazing, and I loved being part of a cast. There's nothing like theater.
Mm-hmm.
I love theater. And having a dad that's a preacher, you're watching a 3-ring circus conductor. I mean, I remember watching him make people cry, make people flop around on the ground. I remember watching him make people laugh. And I just remember looking around the room and thinking, what is this power that this man wields over these people? Because then he told a story that involved me, and he, not badly, but he, exaggerated. He embellished on the story to make it a sermon.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, that's not what happened. And I said, Mom, that's not what, and she's like, Peter, stop. Just keep drawing.
Now it's okay to
Yeah.
draw.
But I remember thinking that was storytelling, and that was like oration. I remember thinking that was a possibility for like what made me feel whole. I used to tell people, have you seen the movie? It's about this family that lives in this house, and this house is haunted, and the kid goes to the TV, and she says, they're here, and the people are like, you mean Poltergeist? I'm like, yeah, I think that's what it's called. It looks really, they're like, have you seen it? I was like, no, but I saw the trailer. And they call me, no, but I saw the trailer kid. Like, because I always was trying to, I love telling stories. I would extrapolate the entire plot of a movie from the trailer. It was like my favorite game when I was a kid.
Speaking of acting, you played a lot of different off-the-wall type characters.
Yeah, weird people.
Such as Charlie and Duncan Christopher, Sean and Crazy Enough,
Yeah,
Matt and Chillicothe,
yeah.
however we say that.
Chillicothe.
Chillicothe. What do you do to channel these bizarre type characters?
I feel for people like, let's say like Bobcat Goldthwait or Pauly Shore, or like Jim Varney, who did like
Ernest.
Ernest. Yeah, Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Saves the Planet, Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Saves Christmas, all those. He is a classically trained Shakespearean actor. But when he gets on screen, they want him to do this thing. Hi, Bert. How you doing, Bert? Or like Larry the Cable Guy. Like he rolls up to a job in a limo. he wears a suit, he gets out, and they give him a sleeveless flannel, and it's all to do. So I don't know, when I would do those parts, like, there really wasn't much to them. It was really kind of like, hey, we've got this character that's got some funny lines, but really he's like the comedic element, and we just need you to say. I would look at that and think, well, what an actor is a storytelling prop. They're like a plant, or a well-placed chair. They're necessary, they're aesthetically pleasing, they're part of the scene, but really the only thing that separates them from those things is they're part of the storytelling. So I just look at it like Uncle Charlie or Cousin Charlie or whatever my name was in that movie, or Matt in Chillicothe, or Alan in Jeffy Was Here, or Sean in Crazy Enough. Like, they all are just storytelling elements, and my part of telling the story is just like to keep the dialogue going. Man, I don't think that I'm a very good actor, but I don't think that I've had the opportunity to. I would love to do some real acting someday in my life, but it's a discipline and
Time commitment.
it is, and I think you've really got to enjoy it, because it's like in order to do stand-up, you really need to put in your stage time to get really good at it. You got to do a lot of shitty rooms. You've got to do you're going to do a lot of rooms that are small. You're going to do a 6-person audience. You're going to do shows that get shut down because the audience didn't show up. And then sometimes you're going to bomb in front of 1,000 people. I've done it. And it's like, you just read your lines, you show up on time. You can't control whether or not people think you're as great as you think you are. And you also can't control when they think you're amazing and you're like, I didn't even do anything. Like, it was so easy, but you can't control it. Like, Picasso said his paintings weren't done until they hung on the wall and the audience looked at them and reacted to them. When the viewer looks at his painting and reacts to it, that's when it's completed. And that's how I feel. It's like, the audience's take has a lot to do with the final product. But as an artist, try to be about more with your personal life, because otherwise you're just going to run around trying to make everyone happy and pleased, and that's not good for artists. An artist they cut their own road. I mean, whether it's in woodwork or design or acting or writing, it's like at some point you have to like put away your childish thoughts of like trying to please everyone else and trying to figure out what everyone else wants you to be and wants you to say and what makes them laugh, and you really focus in on what makes me feel better, what makes me sleep better at night. And 50's a pretty good age to start asking those questions. Because like at 20, you're completely up to your neck in like thinking about what do other people think about me. Mm-hmm. Unless you're like gifted, and I don't mean talented, I mean gifted, like you've been gifted with an ego that doesn't need any stroking. Mine did. My ego was so fragile until yesterday. And earlier today. Right now, I could use a pat on the back. No, it's very fragile. It's a thing that the audience is important, but what makes you a good actor is just being a storyteller. Just Tim Blake Nelson. He is not the best thing in the world to look at. John C. Reilly, not the most handsome thing, but does he serve his purpose in a story? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about him in like Magnolia, or him in like Chicago when he's singing Mr. Cellophane. He's doing it so well that your heart breaks And the way his face looks, which might have been a curse growing up, is like the best thing you've ever seen. And then you get a whole generation of people that are used to seeing him and Will Ferrell as stepbrothers, and they're just like, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. That guy's a hero. So it's like, you don't get plastic surgery. You stick with the date you came with, and you have the best time possible, and then you leave with the face you came with, and people end up loving you for being brave and saying something that everyone wanted to, but no one had the courage to, and for sticking it out, and I don't know.
We
I
were
wanna
talking
speed it
about
up for you.
Alan, and Jeffy was here.
Jeffy was here.
He was a little bit more serious.
Right.
So, do you think you would like to play a more serious character?
I think playing, I think comedy is funnier when it's done more serious. Like, think of Jason Bateman in Arrested Development. Hilarious things are happening all around him, but he's not playing it goofy. He's playing it like it's a documentary.
Yeah.
Spinal Tap, same thing. It's hilarious things are happening, but the reason they're funny is because these guys are straight-laced. I would like to do comedies like that. I mean, I love Dumb and Dumber. I love Dumb and Dumber. But Dumb and Dumber was, it was really great because of those performances they made. You put two other people in that movie and it would have been bad. And I like doing performance-based stuff where it's like you're doing a character and that's what's funny about it. Like Chaplin. But I also I really enjoy Wes Anderson films where it's like the humor is in the seriousness of the picture. Yeah. It's a painting. You're not just laughing, you're also like taking it in the same way you go to a museum and take in something. You're looking at it aesthetically and you're looking at all the work put in and you're laughing. And it's laughter from a different place. I love a good, I love to watch like America's Funniest Videos, and watch someone bust their head, just like anyone else, That's hilarious to me, and it always will be. But that radio dial that goes between like Dumb and Dumber over here and Charlie Chaplin's the Tramp, or The Kid, or something like a Woody Allen film like Manhattan or Annie Hall, something that's very cerebral. With the Royal Tenenbaums, I think, is one of the best films ever made, and it's because it hits that spot in me that feels like I'm reading a book and watching a movie, laughing and crying. My favorite laughs are the ones where I'm crying. There's a scene I've got to say this because this is the first time I've ever said this on camera, and I hope it's remembered forever. I love Alec Baldwin. I think he's super funny. I don't care about his personal life. I think he's just, I think he's very talented when it comes to comedy. He made me laugh when he was handsome, and that's so hard to do. It's really tough to, like John Hamm can do it.
Yeah.
He's terribly handsome, but he's still very funny. In Alec Baldwin is in a movie called The Marrying Man. The Marrying Man is about a guy who gets caught having relations with a mob boss's girl, and they're going at it, and the lights are out in the room, and you can only hear what they're up to, and then it's getting heated, and then there's a click, and a lamp comes on by the bed, and you realize that her mobster boyfriend is in the room. And he says, put your clothes on. We're going to go for a ride. And cuts to them in a car. and it's Robert Loggia is playing the mob boss. Alec Baldwin is sitting in the middle. What's her name? She's sitting, the woman is sitting beside him. And it's a quiet moment. And Alec Baldwin just goes, he just starts laughing. And he's crying, he's laughing so hard. And he's wiping the tears away. And Robert Loggia is looking at him, he's like, maybe you'd like to tell me what's so funny. And he says, I am so scared right now. Alec Baldwin says, and I just remember laughing so hard because it's how I felt watching it. And he said what I felt around the same moment that I felt it. And it was just, it was an honest, like, it was an honest laugh. I like that. I like it whenever, like, there's a scene where people are just hanging out and the dialogue is flowing so naturally that, you know, jokes are happening and we're not even pausing. Like in sitcoms, every time there's a joke, you know, they pause for a second while the audience laughs and claps. But I heard in England that MASH, which had a laugh track in America, did not have one in England. So they were raised, the people in England were raised with a much more subtle sense of humor. They didn't need to be told when to laugh. Here in America, we were treated like we were idiots that needed to be reminded when a joke was happening. And I don't know, I mean, we're better in a lot of things, you know, but I really like no laugh tracks. I also love Seinfeld, but like, I like it when there's not a score that's over, you know, when the score of a movie isn't too present, like in 1950s movies where the swells as they embrace, and you have to listen to these violins go crazy. It's like, just be quiet, you know? You ever seen The Notebook?
Yeah.
You know, that thing can make me cry. I love that movie. I think drama is way undervalued as a comedic substance. Like, I love crying in sad, feel-good movies. To me, that's just like a bowel movement. It just feels so good. Just get it out. Just be like, oh, that was such a good movie. I'm just like, it was cathartic, you know? Sometimes I laugh when something is really true and it's very touching. I will laugh because you know, we all laugh at different stuff. Like some stuff that you laugh at is funny because someone busted their shin, or some guy slipped and hit his nuts, and you're like, and other times you're like laughing because some guy is getting broken up with, and it's just like, oh, that hurts. I've been there, and you know, it's completely different.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be a guy. It could be a woman going through something and you relate. Relatable stuff is sometimes more funny than the weird oddball stuff. But I do love Steve Martin. I love oddball. I love his cocky, know-it-all idiot persona.
And then you graduate up to his more.
Yeah, like A Simple Twist of Fate.
Yeah.
Or like Roxanne.
Mm-hmm.
Or his books, you know, Shop Girl.
And his plays.
Yeah, his plays. I mean, I would not mourn my life if I looked that spread out at the end of it all. Mm-hmm. If there was like cartoons, a book, some stand-up, couple movies, you know, I would love it if, you know, people used to say, focus on one thing, do one thing, and I was like, okay, I'll try, and I always fail, and I would feel like a failure, and then now I get old, and I'm like, I wasn't meant to do the thing. I wasn't meant to focus on jujitsu. I wasn't meant to focus on a 9-to-5. I was meant to hustle and to scramble and to try to make sense of my brain and my decisions and my passion. And that's much more exciting. It's not as, it's scarier. So I would say someone wanting to get into stand-up, like, just get used to being afraid and put yourself, no matter what you want to do, if it's in the arts, put yourself in places, in positions, in situations where you have to grow a new muscle, where you have to get stronger in an area. You know, it's the same thing with anything, you know, like find people who are better at it than you. You know, struggle, fail. You know, with every strikeout, Babe Ruth was one swing closer to the home run king. The same year that he was the home run king, he also had the most strikeouts. I heard. I don't know if it's true. That's another thing, is make up as much as you can all the time. 85% of the time I do that.
You've worked with actors like Chris Kattan, Ken Marino, and Marshall Bell.
Steve Little.
Steve Little, okay. Who's your favorite celebrity that you've worked with?
Working with Clint Eastwood was pretty cool. I worked with him on Blood Work.
Oh.
And he was like in his mid-70s when we did that. And it was 3 a.m. in downtown Los Angeles, 200 extras. Not 200 extras, 200 people in the crew altogether. A bunch of us extras. It was a scene where he's leaving a crime scene, and I was just one reporter of 50 reporters. And you can imagine how loud that could be. Can we get it? But it was 3 a.m. and we were told to pantomime everything. And he came out and they said, oh, by the way, the second AD, he was like, when Clint gets here, he doesn't like to talk, so no one, let's save our talking for inside, but when we come to set, let's keep it down. I could not believe it. 3 a.m. downtown Los Angeles, 200 people, you could hear a pin drop. And his hands were all mangled. He's a jazz pianist. So I didn't know this, but his hands looked mangled like a real old person's hands, and he kept them in his pockets. And he never called action. He would just go, whenever you're ready. And he spoke very quietly. That was, I just thought that was really, I liked that. I liked that. It was very, very cool to meet him. He's a legend or whatever.
What's your favorite project you've worked on and why?
I liked seeing Hoodwinked, because Hoodwinked was, when I traveled through Europe and I didn't have a dime to my name, I literally did not have a bank account. I had PayPal, and I had my drawing stuff, and I had a backpack, and I had my stand-up jokes, so I did a lot of busking, and I did a lot of walking and sleeping on trains and hanging out in stations, train stations, and I slept at shelters. There were so many times on that trip where I would not have eaten were it not for the fact that I had drawn characters in Hoodwinked. Like, I ended up teaching art classes in Amsterdam and Germany, 2 places in Germany, because they heard that I had designed the characters for Hoodwinked.
Speaking of Hoodwinked, how did you find out that so many famous people were going to be voicing the characters, like Anne Hathaway, Glenn Close, Patrick Warburton in Hoodwinked? So many talented voice actors. Yeah. How did you find out about that? And
they weren't in it at first. At the beginning, like the first, before we had funding, before Harvey Weinstein and Bob Weinstein and the Weinstein Company gave us $15 million, we only had the budget of 1.3. So our first Red Riding Hood was one of the Powerpuff Girls. There were very few, like Jim Belushi didn't come in until the very end.
I think Patrick Warburton was the first one to sign.
Yeah, I think he was originally, but like it was a real, as usual with the Blue Yonder gang, which is now Hardy Howell, I believe. It was a real kind of Little Rascals operation for the first fifth of it, and but the work that everyone put into it was A-lister work. So when you add the work that we were doing, because the script was amazing,
Oh yeah.
and the character design, come on, and we, Todd's a hell of a songwriter, so he had written songs for this thing, and the A-list work was just undeniable. So once we got the budget, and people, we got it out to Anne Hathaway, and we got it out to Glenn Close, and Ben Folds. Once they saw what we had, it was easy. Everyone wanted to sign on. I suggest that that's the best way to do it, is just like Steve Martin said, just be undeniably good. Be so good at something that people can't tell you no. They look at what you do and they go, well, it's obviously a yes.
Which characters did you design, or?
I designed Red, the Woodsman, the Wolf, and Granny.
Awesome.
And my friend Dennis Leach, whose brother was one of the directors, he did the bear, he did, I think, the pig, I think the frog. I know Corey designed one. I think Corey did the frog, I think. But that's pretty much it.
You've written some screenplays. How did you get into the Screen Actors Guild?
I did an Oregon State Lottery commercial. After I got into, I had three, when you do extra work, I wanted to do extra work because in LA, you can do extra work for a living. You won't make a lot of money, but there's enough of it that you can work every day. Every day that you want to work as an extra in Los Angeles, you can work. There's enough stuff. So I begged my wife at the time, we're not married anymore, at the time, I begged her, please just let me do something that I couldn't do if we were still living in Tulsa. And she was kind enough to say, okay. So we were very poor, but I got to work on like Clint Eastwood movies, Steven Spielberg movies. I did Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser, and that was directed by the same guy who did Groundhog Day. So I got to meet him. I forget his name. Ivan Reitman. He was in Ghostbusters. Great director. I got to watch him work. I got to work on The West Wing for a couple weeks. They liked me as an extra there, so I got to meet Martin Sheen, and I got to work on Deadwood, the pilot episode of Deadwood, Drew Carey show. I got to work on the lot, before pre-9/11, when you could still roam around, and it was a different world. After 9/11, everything changed the next week. I was on an episode of West Wing, and we were supposed to shoot on Monday, and then 9/11 happened, and they said the studio's shut down until further notice. And then like a week later, they call me and they're like, okay, we're ready for you to come back. And so now instead of having 3 weeks to work on 1 hour long episode, we had 2 weeks to work on a 2-hour episode. So it was like really long, like 17-hour days, just sitting there and waiting. And I was just in a blip of it. But, I wanted to have something, I wanted to work on something that I could watch how it gets done. So I remember watching Janusz Kaminski shooting Catch Me If You Can. He's the guy who shot Saving Private Ryan. And like, I wanted to watch how he set up his shot. I wanted to watch, like, how does Elizabeth Hurley prepare for a scene? How does Ivan Reitman direct his extras? How does Steven Spielberg push me out of frame? what are Clint Eastwood's hands really shaped like? You know, these things that you couldn't do in Tulsa. I mean, I could get a job at a 9 to 5 doing, you know, flipping burgers or whatever in Tulsa, but I wanted something that, and I'm so glad that we did that. I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to be an extra.
Yeah.
I think everyone should get a chance to be homeless. I mean, sometimes that's what they want you to be. It's like, I was in a Lincoln Park video, and I just remember they had it raining on us, with sprinklers. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I've got 2 kids at home. You know, my wife's got to work at the Gap at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm listening to this screamo music and like shivering, and they're like, these bodies are everywhere. It's like this concert footage of like all these people, and like, they're like, okay guys, sorry about it being cold and wet. We have Little Caesars pizza up here if you guys want to get in a single file row. I know there's 1,000 of you, and there's only 3 boxes of pizza, so try to share. It was awful, but you know, I couldn't do it in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Can't do a Lincoln Park. South Lincoln Park. That's a new thing. Okay.
Okay, since you've written both scripts and stand-up, which is harder to write, and which one are you more passionate about?
Okay, writing stand-up is like running a 5-meter dash, if that's a thing. It's like racing from here to the door. Writing a screenplay is like running a marathon. You got to pace yourself. You've got to look at the end. You've got to work on your breathing. You know, I don't know what other illusions to draw, but it's different, and they're both different. And I think writing a great screenplay is something like where I would think you write it, like P.T. Anderson says, you iron pants the way you write a screenplay. You start at the legs and you go all the way up, and then you come back and you start doing small amounts, and each time you go a little further out, a little further out. So like that's how it is. Like when you're writing a screenplay, you like write your outline, you write the breadth of it. It starts here, it ends here. And then you come back here and you're like, it starts here, and then page 2 it goes here. Then you come back, it starts here, and page 2 and 3 and 4 are like this. Then you start over again, you read through it, and then this time you get to 4.5 pages. And then you read it again, and now you're like, okay, now, and you have an outline. You're like, okay, so now I know that there's this hurdle on page 6, and there's this hurdle on page 10. And that takes us to page 12, which we have to get to in order for page 14, which is at the bottom of Act 1. It's a structure. It's like the difference between baking and cooking. Like cooking, you can do in the moment. You can add stuff as you are going. Baking is a science. Like you have to follow the rules if you want it to come out a certain way. I like both. I'll never be able to say I like one better than the other. They're like my kids, you know? Like I obviously like the boy best, but I'm kidding. Brooklyn, you know you're my favorite. Except for Bella. Bella, you know that you're my favorite. But they're different, you know, different speeds. I like both. Because it's like music, you know, music, classical music. Sometimes it's got a hook to it, like dun 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 dun. But then in the middle, there'll be all these notes and all these things. I'm like, how do they remember this part? Because it means nothing to me. It's just complicated. It's all over the place. Give me that hook. I need that dun 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 dun, or I need that thing that I recognize. Because I'm not smart enough to value all the little notes in between. And that's where I'd like to get, because eventually you get old enough and you're like, you know, the best part of love making is the knowing the person. You know, it's not the kaboom boom. It's that anyone can do kaboosh boom that bang bang wah where anyone can do that. It's the flowers.
It's the chocolate. It's the little things. Anyone can push that. Bam! You know, anyone can. Awooga! You know, but it's the.
That's the kind of stuff. That's the only good thing about getting older is that idiotic stuff that I just did makes
Yeah,
sense.
you can say anything.
Yeah. Just crazy.
Okay, according to IMDb, you worked on Gorgeous Vortex, a cut segment that's not was the not so well received VHS viral. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you think if it wasn't cut, it would have been better received, the overall project, or do you think that it would have helped?
Okay, here's one of the reasons why doing production, you either love it or get out. Because if you do it for the money, if you do it for the credit, it might not be worth it. The money is not going to be good enough sometimes, or you're going to need patience to wait and wait and wait. In the meantime, you're going to watch your friends get doctor bills and, become lawyers and astronauts, and you're just going to be, I'm a PA grip right now, but man, I know when I'm in charge of the grip department, I'm going to be making 6 figures, you know. You better love it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to be disenfranchised. Because, like, with that project, like, I don't care what any critics say about it. I don't care what anyone has to say about it. I don't care if they loved it. All I remember is getting good. Like, frequently. Like, I was brought in, I got a call from a friend. He's like, hey, Peter. I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, man, I just woke up from a coma. I was like, oh, is that right? He's like, yeah, I've been in a coma for the last 3 months. No, that's 3 weeks. I was like, oh, wow, that sounds weird. What happened? He's like, oh, well, I was doing some production work, and I'm the art director for this film, and I got T-boned, and then I just woke up yesterday, and now I'm having to, like, scramble to get someone to fill in my shoes on this art department thing. Can you help me? I was like, sure. And then it was just the hardest, most thankless job I've ever done in my life. And it didn't even see the light of day. And I wish I had a nickel for every production I've ever been in that never saw the light of day. It was just shelved. And it was something that I didn't see my kids for weeks for. You know, I like missed birthdays. I was across the country doing this, and it wasn't even worth it. So I think I think as I got older, I was like, I would like to be able, like a lot of actors, when they get older, they'll try other stuff that's more stable, like they'll get into voiceover work. Mm-hmm. Because voiceover work, you can turn your closet into a voiceover studio pretty inexpensively. For about $2,000, you can have a professional recording studio that anyone in the world would accept your work from. And so a lot of my friends that were actors they get into voiceover, or, you know, if they were always trying to get an independent movie made, now they're, you know, doing that for someone else. You know, you find other ways to pay your bills because, you know, you keep pushing that rock up that hill, and then it follows you and you roll back down to the bottom. You do it again and you do it again. And after 50 years, you're like, do I really enjoy pushing this boulder up that hill? Because I'm starting to see a pattern. And so, like, I don't know the answer with that production. And I don't even know, like, if it was offered me today, I hope that I have the bravery to turn it down. I hope that I have the wherewithal and whatnot to say no to a project. But when you're young, I'm sorry, it's just not your right. It's not your right. Your parents need to take care of you because your job is to say yes until you find what works. And it takes so many no's. It takes so many failures to make anything of your life. Mm-hmm. Like, especially if you want to do something great. If you want to do something great, and you want to, and I mean something really great, like pay your bills, you know, like have a house and a car someday, that's a miracle. It's a miracle. And if you can do it in the arts, do it. But, you know, I think that it's really tough, so you better love it.
Yeah.
And if you do love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I don't work. When I get paid for drawing, it feels like I'm ripping off the world. Because I'm like, I cannot believe I'm getting paid to do something that I would be doing even if no one was paying me.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with stand-up comedy, too. Someone gives you a microphone and says, will you stand up there in the spotlight and say things that will make these people laugh? I'll give you $20. I mean, if you're the right kind of personality, you're going to see that as like, how much do I have to pay you? $20? Okay, that's affordable. All right, let's do it. You know, you're just glad to be there. That's been, you know, I'm just glad.
Can I make payments?
Yeah, can I do a layaway program? Yeah, dude, that is not, that's almost not funny. It's almost not funny.
Okay, final question.
All right, final.
What does film mean to you?
Oh, film is history. I watch movies on TCM with Van every night for like you know, like 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We watch a movie, and a lot of times they're from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. You know, and he'll say, "Oh, these people are dead now," and I'm like, "Dude, cheer up, man." But really, that's what it is to him. He's like, can you believe people used to live like this? This is more historical than entertaining. And it's so true. Like, we were watching a French film from like 1923 the other day called Children of Paradise. And it's one of my favorite movies ever. It was a big influence on Terry Gilliam when he was doing Time Bandits. And it shows the Boulevard of Dreams, which was this real place in France where all the mimes and all the artists would have, you'd walk up and down and be like Mayfest, but every day, and it would just be crowded with like theater and comedy and tragedies and like Broadway. And I just remember watching it and thinking, oh, that's so long ago. That's like a dream. It's so long ago. And it wasn't. It was, they filmed that while France was occupied by Germany. But it looks like it was made in the 1800s. So it's like beauty. To me, film is like, it doesn't even matter, because like The Shining is very scary, but there's still something beautiful about the picture. There's beautiful about the haunting nature of beauty and a scare or romance, or to me, it's what church does a poor man's imitation of, is capturing the magic of the human experience and putting it up, you know, on a screen so people can look at it like a mirror and say, I'm not like that, I am like that. I'm not like that, I am like that. Oh, I am all these things. Oh, woe is me, I am more complex than I thought. And the lights go up, and you just left in the street just thinking about your existence and the bittersweetness of it all. It's like a good joke or a good piece of music. It's transcendent. It takes you beyond where words can suffice and whatnot.
Married and whatnot. It's too much pressure on a guy like me. I dated a girl for 2 years once. She dragged me through the duty. What's the opposite of a match made in heaven? Hell? A match made in hell, that's what we were.
You should get a shot of, did you get a shot of those
No.
ships? You should get a shot. Those are cool.